My name is Jennifer Fry. I'm Group Communications Manager at Inland Homes. Communications is a really diverse role and function within an organisation. So it covers many areas. It covers internal communications, external communications, media, website development, management, social media, and then corporate communications like writing the annual report. As a communications professional, my role is to make sure that people both in the business and external to the business know who we are and what we're doing as an organisation, and helps raise the profile of the company and create a positive perception of the company as well. My role is to make sure that everyone both within the business and externally knows what we do as an organisation. So I went to a school that was very much the traditional academic subjects kind of school. So it was very much you will do English, maths, science and a language. And I've always liked English, so I knew I wanted to carry on at GCSE and A-level doing English. At the back of my mind, I was always thinking that I wanted to get into media. I had this vague idea about getting into TV and being part of that exciting world, but my school didn't offer media studies or photography or something else that I was interested in. So I thought I'll do English and focus on that. I loved it. I love writing, I love reading, so it seemed like a natural fit. And then it came to applying for university. And I thought, okay, here's my chance. So I'll do media studies, communications and media studies. I came into this with a communications degree, and I think traditionally a lot of people probably do go down that path, but it's not the only route into it. So increasingly I'm finding a lot of people are actually learning on the job, coming in or transferring from other departments. So for example, we work closely with HR. So there's a very strong link for internal communications and HR, which offers a lot of opportunity to shift between the two. If you want to get a degree, that's obviously a really good foundation stone. I did communications and media. I've worked with people who've got degrees in English, in history, in fine art. So it's all about having those critical thinking skills and being able to write again. So that's very important. But you can learn on the job. So if there's an opportunity there and you're coming out of school, don't discount it. Have a look at it and see if it offers that progression that you'd be interested in. I guess coming out of university, I was quite naive still about what I could actually do with the degree that I had. So I didn't know anyone who worked in this industry. So for me, growing up, having a good career was very much being a lawyer or a doctor, something very traditional like that. So I came out of university with this degree, and to be honest, I didn't really know where to go with it. And I did the whole, as a graduate, you come out and you're like, oh God, I'm in the big wide world now, what do I do? So I started applying for jobs and kind of applied for jobs at the BBC and different TV channels as runners and researchers, and didn't really get anywhere. So I was a bit of a loss really of what to do. And then a job opportunity came up working in publishing and production, so kind of managing the editorial and design and print of various publications. And I thought, okay, great, this is my way in and I can start from that and then maybe move over to editorial. So that was my first couple of years. Really, really enjoyed it. Always at the back of my mind wanted to get into more of the writing side and more creative. But it was a really good starting point for me because it gave me that knowledge about design, print, production, which has been really useful for me. And then from that, I went to a job where I was actually working more closely with communications teams, so actually working with them on the things that they produced. And it just kind of clicked that that was what I wanted to be doing on that side of it. So then I actively started looking for roles in that area. And that's it, that's where I started, went in that way and loved it ever since. Good communications professionals that I've come across have been very interested in people. They really like getting to know people and what makes them tick. So you've got to have that ability to have a conversation with people and be interested in what they're saying. It's very much a listening role. I think there's a perception that it's all about putting a marketing spin on it, but a huge part of it is actually listening to what people are saying and then using that to craft the messages that you're communicating. You've got to understand what makes people tick. If you're going to communicate it, you've got to know what people are interested in and what they want to hear. So it's about listening a lot of the time. But I think there's an assumption that you have to be an extrovert to work in communications, and I don't think that's the case. A lot of the best communications people I've worked with have been actually quite introverted. So they're the good listeners, they're the ones that like having those one-on-one conversations and actually finding out what makes people tick. You also need to be very organised because there's so much happening. You need to be able to stay on top of all these different conflicting deadlines and projects that you've got going on at any time. You have to be able to prioritise your workload. So you've got this huge list, which one's the most important, which one can wait, what will happen if you miss a certain deadline. And then you have to have the confidence to be able to communicate that and stand by what you're saying. It depends on which area you go into. So I don't think it would ever hurt if you have design and you have knowledge of print and design work and the production process. That's going to stand you in good stead. Equally, if you can use a CMS system for the website, that's always going to come in useful. For skills-wise, being a good writer is a really key skill to have, because a lot of what you're doing is you're translating different subjects, different content for different audiences. So you need to be able to communicate that using language, using tone of voice, so actually get that key message across. There isn't a typical day for communications. For example, last week I was involved in filming some case studies for one of our projects, so talking to residents who are in some of our one of our housing developments so we can use their stories on our website and in media. And then the next day I was on a building site doing a site visit with some school children around the site and doing a photography shoot and looking at all the progress that's going on there. And then also I was working on some media stories. We had a big announcement go out, so I had to liaise with the PR agencies on the messaging and make sure that we targeted all the right media. And then internal comms, I was looking at organising a staff lunch so that employees are actually kept across what we're doing. You're not desk-bound, you're out of the office quite a lot and you're getting to meet all these different people. And there are I think some communications jobs where you would be more desk-bound. So if you go into the website of it, for example, you would be, or if you're a copywriter or a proofer, that would be more desk-bound. I'm a very nosy person, so I like to know exactly what's going on, and what I love about my job is I get insight into everything across the business. So I'm not siloed into one particular department. I get to work with all the different teams, meet all these different people, and I feel like I know exactly what's going on at any one time, which for someone like me is really good fun. It's often very deadline driven, and you're kind of the gatekeeper of information. So you have to be organised and you have to make sure everyone's doing things at the right time. But there's also this element of pressure that you have to get things like, for example, if you're working on a media story, you have to get it out while it's still current. So you're working to that deadline all the time. But you're very conscious that you need to make sure that all the people you work with internally are happy with it, that they're comfortable with what's being said. So it's that kind of balance of trying to go really quickly on something, but make sure you've gone through all the steps and everything's very ordered and structured, because you're working in this corporate environment. So what you say actually matters. Everyone in the business you will be speaking to. You work really closely with the marketing and sales team, also with the HR team, so there's a direct link there between the two. But as part of what you want to do, you want to be talking to all the different teams within the business so that you can find out what they're working on and then use their stories as part of what you're actually communicating. Externally, I work closely with different PR agencies, different design agencies, photographers, all the different multiple agencies that you come across, just to coordinate everything that's going on internally. I started off in publishing when I came out of university. It was very much about managing the production process, making sure that people did everything as and when to schedule, and that things went to the designer, to the printer on time, and then it made it to customers at the right time. So for me, that was a really good lesson in staying on top of your work. All well and good to say I like having a chat with people, but making sure that you have that planned and mapped out in advance, and that you're tracking it every day to make sure that you're staying on schedule. So first job was a tick box in being organised. Following that, I went to work. It was a print management company that was based in-house for a communications team. What I got from that was how important it was to actually build relationships with people. We were technically a different company, but we worked so closely with them that we had to go and meet with them regularly. But beyond that, it was about getting to know what their priorities were, what where they had issues, what we could do to help them. And if you could build that relationship up, it made life much easier. Also worked in community engagement, so that's actually getting out and talking to people, stakeholders, MPs, local business people about what we're doing as a company. And again, that's about listening, so getting to know who you're actually communicating to, what they want, what their issues are, what they want you to focus on. So while as a communicator you might think it's all about getting your story out, a big part of it is actually listening to people to start off with, and then you can tailor your message to that. What surprised me the most, that I think a lot of people probably come into it with this perception that it's very PR-y and it's very lots of spin and it's lots of air kissing and events and all fairly, I guess, quite shallow. And I think if you're going to be a good communicator, especially in an in-house role, you have to have an interest in the commercial side and the strategy of a business. So it's, if you need to communicate it, you need to put the PR spin on it, but to do that effectively, you really need to actually have a good understanding of the business as itself. And I don't think there's a good understanding there of that depth of knowledge that's needed. Part of it comes with experience. I think a lot of people probably are attracted to the role because it does seem, especially if you're going down the PR route, it seems quite glamorous. There's more to it than that. It's not just about making things look pretty. You've got a key role in making the business a success. People need to buy into what you're doing as a business, and to do that you need to communicate effectively what that strategy is. So if you don't understand the strategy, you're not going to be able to do that. I guess some people come in and they'll have that knowledge, but as I said, I came into it and I was very naive, and that's something I've probably picked up as I've gone down this route. If you want to work in-house for a company, so more on the corporate communications side, a lot of people come in as graduates or as communications assistants, which is a good opportunity then, so you'll get a lot of exposure to all the different areas that you could work in. People then may decide that they want to focus on a particular area. Some people love internal communications and that's all they want to do, so they'll go down that path. You could also go and look at joining a PR agency. That's working with multiple different companies, so you're very much then focused on the media and the PR. There's so many different ways in. Deciding what's right for you, whether you want to be probably more creative, or if you like that kind of corporate side mixed with the creative side, that might help you determine which way you actually want to go. There's communications roles everywhere you can think of. It's not just in London. There are a lot of roles based in the larger cities, but local government, all local government departments have a communications team in-house. So if that's something you're interested in, that's worth having a look into. NHS also has multiple communications teams, so a lot of people go down that path. And if you're looking at the design or print or PR side, those roles are throughout the UK, so you definitely don't have to move to London to get a communications job. Think outside the box. Don't just think about I want to do media, I like English, I want to be a teacher, or I want to write, because you need to look a bit broader than that and look at all these. Do your research, think about what opportunities are there beyond the ones that are obviously in your face. And then from that, you can try to focus your attention on what might actually suit you as a person and the skills that you have. Go to university if that's what you choose to do, focus on your studies, but also try and get that on the job experience, because that's going to show you really quickly whether it's something you're going to enjoy. And don't just focus on one side of it, try and work across different sides of communication. So have a go at internal comms, have a go at the PR agency. And a lot of it is who you know, getting those relationships built up. So talk to people, meet people in the industry, let them know that you're there and you're looking for those opportunities. So university depends on the course that you want to do, whether you want to focus on one that's probably more theoretical or practical based. So you can obviously do design-based courses. You could do a writing course. I did communications, which was quite broad, and it was about the theory behind communications, like globalization, the history of TV and radio, that kind of thing. There's so much choice out there, and I guess it depends. If you know which area you want to focus on, that will help, or if you don't, you might be better doing one that gives you a bit more exposure. And then on the job, again, it just depends on where you want to focus, where you actually enjoy spending your time. For me, it hasn't hurt me having some of those skills, but you don't need them. There's not, like, the interest in language, the interest in writing, for me, I think is key. And if you go to university, those critical thinking skills and that ability to write essays that's going to stand you in good stead. But equally, if you don't, and you're someone who likes having a conversation and you can chat to people and find out more about them, then that's equally going to give you a good starting point as well.